The Times Now ESG Impact Summit 2024 by the Global Sustainability Alliance (GSA), a celebration of leaders who think beyond boundaries and redefine possibilities. The Times Now ESG Impact Summit 2024 honors excellence across diverse sectors, environmental, social, governance priorities, and more. The event opened with a fireside chat on the topic empowering communities through leadership.
What keeps Kiran Bedi going year after year, day after day, month after month?
Just a sense of purpose. What is life for? What is my day for? What is this energy for? What are the resources for? What is this blessing for? Why don't I give it back? Because that's adding value to myself. But if I won't do it, I'll be devaluing myself. I actually revalue myself on a daily basis. What is it that lies ahead of me? What is it that I can do with what I'm truly blessed with? It's just a sense of purpose. It's adding value to my own life. Because I don't want to devalue myself. And if I wouldn't do all this, I will be reclining. Why should I recline? Why should I keep growing? So it is a daily investment by being not to yourself, but being healthy, being positive, and then looking out, what else can I do? And that's how it keeps me engaged. And I do look out for every day, what is it that I can do more? What is it that I can do better? How much can I reach more? What is it that I correct for myself or for others? So it's living for yourself, for others.
This was followed by a keynote address by Ujala Bedi Chaudhary, Director, Coalitions and Collaborations, Navjyoti India Foundation.
Any organization rather has to have an organic approach. We have to go by the needs of the community. It cannot be the other way around, wherein the external solutions are being provided to the community. So how we started basically was when ma'am was in charge of the one of the Delhi police stations. She wanted to understand what is the root cause of the problem, because the crime rate was so rampant there. And she realized that it was due to drug peddling and all sorts of addicts which were there, and the crime rate was pretty high. So rather than putting them behind bars, she in her own police garage opened a drug rehabilitation center, and that's how Navjyoti was born.
This was followed by a keynote address by Dr. Balkrishna Pisupati, United Nations Environment Programme, on the topic of sustainable and purpose-driven change.
Many times, the decisions related to environmental governance and management in the context of the multilateral environmental agreements and a number of issues that was mentioned during the earlier session. The discussions happen at the global level, guided by science, where science informs policy making, but the responsibility of implementation is always national. And certainly, if I'm going to be translating it or transcending it down further, the national responsibility has to be owned by the society at large. That is where today, at all levels, we speak of a whole of government approach and also a whole of society approach to deal with a number of environmental issues.
This was followed by an interactive workshop, Can Reporting of ESG CSR SDG Lead to Impact, by Dr. Aditi Haldar, Director, South Asia, Global Reporting Initiative.
First page of the report is the message from the highest authority who signs on. So it is very, very important that discussions should happen in the organization about environmental and social and governance topics. Otherwise, the reporting is just like tick box. I have the report and here it is. There is no reader or the information user. There is no action and there is no change that is desired from the reporting which is happening. And therefore, reporting will not actually lead to any kind of benefit coming back to the organization. And that's the reason could be that reporting could be seen as a cost center, not as an investment.
This was followed by an inaugural panel discussion, Net Zero Energy Buildings, Leveraging Certifications to Achieve Carbon Neutrality.
How is the Indian building and construction ecosystem adopting and implementing the net zero goals? I mean, what are the challenges we face here today, and how do we compare with the rest of the world?
I think the most important thing now for us would be to be consistent in the boundary setting and how we do that net zero. And the more you expand the boundary, tougher it gets. So right now, I would say many of the industry players have cracked it on the operational energy versus, the offsetting using renewable. Now, if you have to take the whole life cycle carbon into account, still a long gap. So I'll just take a pause here. Yeah. We'll like to hear more, from the implementers, how they are moving from one step to another.
We started actually, we have better. We started about 2 to almost 3 decades back. This entire journey was started about almost 20 years back. So for that, definitely there has to be first a policy level. What are the things? We embarked on something like triple bottom line concept. Okay. That means, yes, we are in a business. It has to make a business sense. So we cannot exist if your business is not making reasonable profit. I'll not say that thing. Okay. Also, but we cannot neglect the planet or the surrounding, the communities or the environment.
How easily is data available? What does it require to get into data reporting? And I'm sure, like any other businesses, some will be ahead of the curve, right? I mean, people who have maybe global organizations or maybe the larger corporates will be ahead of the curve. So what has been your experience in this field?
Primarily is electricity, diesel, water and gas, EDWG aspect for it. In electricity, India is a complex country. So we have almost around 110 discoms. So large enterprises have got footprints across all of the states. Okay, so what we try to do is, we help you to get the document right from the discom type. And from there, we have a doc AI engine, okay, which actually knows about all the know-hows of the discoms, okay, which helps you to give you the units data, your power factor penalty data, what kind of meter it is LT1A, LT2A, we go to that level extent.
The day continued with a spirited panel discussion, leaders' dialogue, evaluating and assessing impact.
We are not achieving many of the goals we set out for. Does it mean that we had any lack of effort, intention, money? I don't think so. There's so much of efforts going on, so many trillions of dollars of money going on, so many entities working on this, but still we are unable to achieve certain things which we set out for. And one of the reasons of that is to achieve something, and particularly if that something is a long-term goal, you need to do a very periodic assessment. Am I on the right track? Do I need to do some course corrections? Do I need to add something, remove something? And orchestrating or aligning efforts of multiple entities rather than in a Brownian motion, 500 entities are working in 500 directions.
We covered today, initially we started to clear 30 kilometers of roads. Today we are clearing about 800 kilometers of roads in Pune and 100 kilometers of roads in Mumbai. And as I told you, we have filled about 100,000 potholes and we distribute water to about 6,000 families who are needy of water through an water ATM. This is what we do. We employ about 600 waste warriors. I would call them as waste warriors because they are the warriors like the army warriors on the border. They work here. And second, all these waste warriors are equipped with PPE, personal protective equipment. And as regards the ESG, we are covering about maybe last 5 years we are doing the GRI reporting and we are saving about 80 tons of CO2 emissions every year on year, and our fleet is carbon neutral by 50%.
Are we doing a project or are we trying to solve a problem? So if we want to solve a problem for the long term, then the sustainability aspects become very important. These two surveys is part of how we are measuring our work right now, and we have taken on to ourselves to reach 10 million people by 2030, which is linked to the SDGs. And by collaborating with others, enable access to another 100 million people. The size of the problem in India is 600 million as per the government standards. And what you mentioned that we can keep doing projects, but are we solving the problem at a broader level? So we are trying to do both basically, and let's see where we get.
Every state has their own challenges, and Odisha is also known as a state of disaster. So the best what you can do in disaster is you can't prepare for the disaster to come, that may come any day, any time. So is the ESG. Like, we all are talking about climate change, but we are, doing it in a such a way that people doesn't feel the pinch of it. And Odisha is always prepared for better disaster. So we are preparing the people to face the disaster which is going to come.
This was followed by a special session on the topic, the financial impact of ESG, investment, risk and return.
We are always learning more. We are always seeing people really push the envelope. And the reason dialogue like this is important is because we can always share a lot of what we learn. And another reason why this dialogue is important is because people are not really, I would say, putting their money where their mouth is, very literally. And that's the conversation that we're having today, right? And a lot of people want to see the financial impact that ESG will have, the positive developments that ESG will have on their business. The thing is, you have to make that investment and then you have to have that patience.
There's no doubt about that it's good for business, and it's not even an intangible outcome anymore. You look at any of the global financial indices like the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, the MSCI, it's very clear that companies who are strong on ESG are outperforming on a financial basis. Right. Companies who are not performing, because investors view it purely in terms of risk. Companies who are better prepared in this front are a less risky investment.
There is a common perception that ESG is compliance. And I think it's very important to change that perception and for SMEs to understand that it's a value accretive exercise. It mitigates risk, but risk and return go hand in hand. So it's how does it improve their overall stakeholder value, not just shareholder value, but stakeholders, which is their employees, their investors, their customers, all of that. So very urgent, because the world is not going to survive without it.
This was followed by a research brief by Deepak Hanumantarayappa, partner and country head, Ipsos Strategy.
Primarily looked at 5 broad areas in the whole analysis frame. So one was the size and scale of operation of the companies. So by virtue of being large or mid-sized organization, those were the ones who made way into the list. So that was parameter 1. The second parameter was the kind of CSR commitment that these companies have done in terms of absolute spend. The third factor was where are they spending the money that they have kind of set aside for CSR. The fourth one was more on the impact that this effort is being delivering on ground in terms of number of lives that one is touching, in terms of the penetration of where are they operating, how many geographic locations are they operating, etc. was the fourth parameter. And the last one was also to look at the future vision that the companies have called out, saying what are the future goals that they are looking at. So these were broad metrics that we looked at and passed it through the funnel of rating, and then applied weightages on top of it to land at companies who are doing better over the other. So again, like I said, it's not relative, but it's more of seeing who stands out or which group stands out in the whole lot.
Our social and environmental impact comes from our philosophy of do good, do well, which defines the purpose of our organization, which is to impact the GDP of the country in a positive manner and build better lives for everybody.
With our CSR partner, Mukul Madhav Foundation, we have been making impactful contributions for last 10 years, though their presence has been much longer. They are present for more than 25 years, making contributions towards upliftment of the society. Continuing the same values, our chairman, Shri Prakash P. Chhabadiya ji, ensure that we do meaningful contributions and even expand our horizons. At Mukul Madhav Foundation, Mrs. Ritu Prakash Chhabadiya ji, who is the co-founder as well as the managing trustee, with her tireless effort and her team committed to the cause, along with network of phenolics, ensure that they make meaningful contributions and championing the causes of education, sustainability, and ensuring the lives get better.
Here we have a good audience who understands what the listed companies are looking for. They are looking out for solutions where they want to think about how they do this, be a part of the boardroom conversation. And this is where I see that excitement coming in. And even they're ready to understand the net zero roadmap for the entire pool of the companies. So that enthusiasm and bringing them in a common room is an amazing thing you guys have done.
I think ESG and CSR, while fundamentally distinct, are also interlinked in many ways. And for today's corporates, it is important that both of these move hand in hand. And when these two intersect, the impact is amplified. It's a win-win both for the corporate as well for the environment and communities. Now, the way to make that happen is, first of all, ESG and CSR, the organizations should set very clear objectives and goals. What are we trying to achieve through each? And then only you can align both one with the other. Other than that, also both CSG and ESR must be embedded within the organization's corporate strategy. It should not be, a superficial integration, but rather fundamental decision-making, day-to-day operations should be governed by CSR and ESG considerations. And when this happens, the synergy will also happen, and that will benefit the company. Today, we are living in an era where we are hearing words like greenwashing and tokenism. So it's very important that from a point of view of corporate reputation to steer clear of all this. So the trust is the very cornerstone of CSR and ESG. And for that, you need to share data. You need to have reports, you need to have metrics, and you need to articulate to external stakeholders what exactly are your plans, what are the challenges you faced, how much of it has been implemented, what is the progress, how many people it has benefited. All of these facts and figures must be readily available for validation and assessment. When that happens, the corporate gains trust, it gains credibility, investor confidence, and people generally feel that, okay, this company is serious about its commitments towards people. And the other thing about data is that, when you analyze data, it allows you a chance to improve. Because you look at data, you look at what is working, what is not working. Accordingly, you can tweak your strategy a bit. And so, that continuous improvement keeps on happening. I think it needs to be top-driven. For CSR not to be a buzzword or not to be just a mandate that needs to be followed, it needs to come straight from the top. Right from the boardroom down to the chairman and the CEO championing it, and right down to the last mile. They should clearly communicate to every employee that, while business is a big reason for the company to exist, but we are also intending to go an extra mile and do something for the environment, for people, and give back to the society. At the very onset, they should set very clear goals and policies and communicate to the entire organization that what are we planning to achieve, what are our objectives, so that each department, each employee knows how can I contribute to CSR. And they should keep encouraging various stakeholders, not only the employees, but also partners, investors, vendors, customers, take their feedback, how to improve the CSR program, what more can be done, what is working, take their views and inputs into the planning process. So this way, I think corporates can actually ensure that CSR is much more than a buzzword.
Whatever we are doing is for the end users, and if end users are not put responsible in a transparent way, this pendulum will always be on the other side of the corporate than the main corporate who is main culprit for doing all these things. So I think this transparency, when brought it in such a way where every stakeholder is equally responsible, I think that data would be more transparent in my terms.
I think हमारी गलती ये है कि हम सिर्फ मलेरिया पे ज़्यादा बात करते हैं. तो मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ कि इस देश के if you really want good cities in this country, go back to the villages and work there. मैं भी migrated हूँ, हम में से आधे से ज़्यादा लोग migrated हैं, but our migration was by choice. Everyone who was walking in 2020, migration was in compulsion. If we stop that migration in compulsion, if we create huge amount of opportunities in the villages, cities will be happy, villages will be happy, dignity will be intact for people. And the last example of the mosquito, I always say कि यदि आपको education पे काम करना है, तो शायद smart classroom बनाने से ना हो, because maybe to solve the problem of a village in India, you will have to go and work on the water for irrigation in that village so that the kid does not migrate.
This was followed by Champions of CSR felicitation ceremony honoring leaders in diverse sectors. Hero Future Energies was felicitated as champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was Finolex Pipes and Fittings. Bansidhar and Ela Panda Foundation was felicitated as the champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was BLS International. Britannia Industries was felicitated as champion of CSR. Godrej Consumer Products was felicitated as champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was Hexaware Technologies. Honeywell Hometown Solutions India Foundation was felicitated as champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was Hyundai Motor India. Indospace was felicitated as champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was Jindal Power. Jindal Steel and Power was felicitated as champion of CSR. The next brand to be felicitated as champion of CSR was Lupin Human Welfare and Research Foundation. SBI General Insurance was felicitated as champion of CSR. VFS Global was felicitated as champion of CSR. The Times Now ESG Impact Summit 2024 by the Global Sustainability Alliance (GSA) culminated on high voltage discussions, pride and a sense of achievement. Though the curtains came down, but the search for excellence by the Times Group will go on.